I never thought my own brother would betray me like that. Tyler and I had our issues growing up, but what he did crossed every line imaginable. 2 years with Sophia, building a life together, planning a future, all destroyed in one night. I had just stepped out to pick up dinner when he burst into our apartment, beer on his breath, looking at my girlfriend with that smirk. "He is a weakling," he told her. "Ditch him tonight. I will show you a real man." The worst part was not his words, but her reaction, laughing as she started throwing my things into the hallway. I stood frozen, watching my life collapse. What happened next changed all of us forever. Before I continue with this story, drop a comment letting me know where you are watching from, and hit that like and subscribe button if you have ever had to deal with toxic family members or relationship betrayals. Trust me, what happens next will show you exactly why karma is real and why sometimes the best revenge is simply letting people face the consequences of their own actions. Growing up as the younger brother of Tyler Reed was never easy. From our earliest memories, our household operated with a clear hierarchy, one that my parents, particularly our father, reinforced at every opportunity. Tyler was everything a real man should be. According to our father, athletic, aggressive, dominant, a natural leader who took what he wanted without apology. I was his opposite in almost every way, more academic than athletic, thoughtful rather than impulsive, preferring books and computers to football and wrestling. "Why cannot you be more like your brother?" became the soundtrack of my childhood, a question that carried the weight of perpetual disappointment. When Tyler won wrestling championships, my academic achievements barely registered. His trophies dominated the living room display case, while my honor roll certificates were relegated to a drawer in my mother's desk, acknowledged but not celebrated. This dynamic shaped our relationship from the beginning. Tyler did not just enjoy being the favorite, he actively worked to maintain his position, often at my expense. When I was 12 and brought home a first-place science fair medal, Tyler accidentally spilled soda on my project the night before it was to be displayed at the regional competition. When I was 16 and finally worked up the courage to ask out Melissa, my high school crush Tyler somehow got to her first, dated her for 2 weeks, then dumped her publicly, effectively ending any chance I might have had. "Just toughening you up, little brother," he would say, after each incident, ruffling my hair in that condescending way that made me feel like a child, even after I had grown taller than him. The world is not going to coddle you like mom does. Our parents either did not see these dynamics or chose to ignore them. Our mother occasionally tried to mediate, but usually defaulted to keeping the peace, which meant letting Tyler have his way. Our father actively encouraged Tyler's behavior, seeing it as proper masculine mentoring. "Competition between brothers is natural," he would say, whenever my mother questioned the fairness of their treatment. "Daniel needs to learn to stand up for himself." By the time I reached college, I had developed a defensive strategy of simply keeping my life separate from Tyler's. I chose a university across the country studying software engineering, while he stayed local writing a partial athletic scholarship before dropping out to work at our father's construction company. For several years, this distance provided relief, allowing me to develop friendships and a sense of self apart from his shadow. After graduation, I secured a position at a growing tech firm in Seattle, establishing myself as a reliable developer with a talent for problem solving. My career was steady, if not spectacular, providing the stability and intellectual challenge I valued. I had a small circle of close friends, a comfortable apartment, and the beginnings of financial security, all achieved without family connections or assistance. Then at a friend's wedding 3 years ago, I met Sophia Martinez. She worked in marketing for a retail company, was passionate about photography, and had a laugh that made everyone around her smile. Our connection was immediate and surprising, at least to me. She was vibrant and outgoing, attributes I had always associated with people who would find me boring, yet she seemed genuinely interested in my more reserved nature. "You actually listen when people talk," she told me on our third date. "Do you know how rare that is?" Over the next several months, our relationship deepened. We shared interests in photography, hiking the Pacific Northwest trails, and quiet evenings discussing everything from philosophy to science fiction. She encouraged me to speak up more at work, leading to a promotion I might not have pursued otherwise. I helped her organize her first photography exhibition, spending weekends, building display frames, and helping her select her best work. 2 years into our relationship, we moved in together, finding a 2-bedroom apartment that allowed space for her photography and my home office. We talked about marriage as an eventuality rather than a question, planning for a future that seemed secure in its trajectory. The first complication arose during a holiday visit to my family. I had been selective about these visits, usually going alone and keeping them brief. This time, however, Sophia insisted on joining me, eager to meet my family after hearing so much about them. I reluctantly agreed, hoping that Tyler, who had recently moved to Portland for a management position at a new branch of my father's company, would be too busy to attend. He was not. From the moment he saw Sophia, something shifted in his demeanor. The casual dismissiveness he usually directed at me took on a new edge, one that included frequent references to our childhood, where he had always looked out for his little brother, stories that rewrote history to cast him as protector rather than tormentor. More concerning was the way he focused on Sophia finding excuses to touch her arm during conversations, bringing up interests they supposedly shared, interrupting whenever she and I were talking. I recognized his tactics from high school, the same approach he had used with Melissa and others, but told myself Sophia was different, that our relationship was stronger than his ability to undermine it. The visit ended without incident, but over the following months, Tyler found reasons to be in Seattle with increasing frequency. Business trips, concerts, sports events, each one accompanied by texts to Sophia, suggesting they all meet up always, including me in the invitation, but making it clear I was an afterthought. Sophia insisted his behavior was harmless. "He is just being friendly," she would say. "Besides, he is your brother. Family is important." I wanted to believe her, but patterns from my childhood were re-emerging. Tyler would coincidentally suggest restaurants I had mentioned wanting to try with Sophia. He remembered details about her interests I had shared during rare phone conversations with our mother. He was inserting himself into our relationship with calculated precision. Tensions between Sophia and me began to surface. Small disagreements escalated into arguments more frequently. She started making comments about my overthinking things and being too sensitive about Tyler phrases that echoed my father's criticisms throughout my childhood. A week before the night that would change everything, we had our most serious fight yet. Tyler had sent Sophia tickets to a concert for her birthday, expensive seats for a performer she loved. Just 2 tickets, one supposedly for me. When I pointed out that he knew I had an important project deadline that night, she accused me of being jealous and controlling. "Fine," I said, finally exhausted from the circular argument. "Go with Tyler. I trust you." The words felt hollow even as I said them, not because I did not trust her, but because I knew my brother too well. The night of the concert, I threw myself into work, finishing the project ahead of schedule. Deciding to surprise Sophia with dinner from her favorite Thai restaurant, I headed home early, unaware that the foundation of my life was about to crumble beneath me. I entered our apartment building with 2 bags of takeout, nodding to our neighbor Mrs. Finley as she checked her mail in the lobby. The elevator was out of service again, so I climbed the 4 flights of stairs, mentally rehearsing how I would apologize for being difficult about the concert. When I reached our floor, I heard raised voices from inside our apartment. One of them, unmistakably Tyler's. My first thought was confusion. The concert should not have ended for another hour. At least. My second was concern. The tone of the conversation sounded heated. I shifted the food bags to one hand and unlocked the door. The scene inside froze me in place. Tyler stood in our living room, a half-empty whiskey glass in his hand, clearly several drinks in. Sophia sat on the couch, her expression a mixture of surprise and something else I could not immediately identify. The coffee table was littered with empty beer bottles, and music I did not recognize played loudly from our speakers. Well, here he is," Tyler announced, raising his glass in a mock toast. "The man of the hour, always showing up at exactly the wrong time." "What is going on?" I asked, looking between them. "Why are not you at the concert?" Sophia at least had the decency to look uncomfortable. "It was canceled. Water damage at the venue or something. We decided to come back here instead." "You could have texted me," I said, still standing in the doorway, the food growing cold in my hands. "Why?" Tyler interjected, moving closer to Sophia on the couch. So you could rush home from work and bore us with talk about your computer project. We were having actual fun for once. I set the food down on the entry table, anger and hurt competing for dominance. I think you should leave Tyler. He laughed, that same dismissive laugh I had heard throughout my childhood. That is your problem, Danny boy. Always thinking, never doing. He stood up, swaying slightly from the alcohol. Let me tell you something, Sophia. My brother here, he is never going to be the man you need. He is a weakling, always has been. Our father knew it. I know it. And deep down, you know it too. Stop it. I said, my voice sharper than intended. You are drunk. Go home. Why, Tyler challenged, stepping toward me, afraid of what she will hear, afraid she will finally see you for what you are. He turned to Sophia, who was watching the exchange with an intensity that disturbed me. Ditch him tonight. I will show you what a real man looks like, someone who takes action instead of hiding behind a computer screen. I expected Sophia to defend me, to tell him to leave, to show any sign that our 2 years together meant something. Instead, she laughed. Not a nervous laugh, not an uncomfortable attempt to diffuse tension, but an actual laugh of amusement, as if Tyler had articulated something she had been thinking herself. Maybe he is right, Daniel, she said, standing up to join Tyler. You have been so distant lately, so caught up in your work, your caution, your endless planning. When was the last time you did anything spontaneous or exciting? The betrayal hit like a physical blow. Are you serious right now? This is my brother, Sophia. My brother who has been trying to undermine our relationship for months, and you are taking his side. See, Tyler smirked, putting his arm around her shoulders. Always the victim. Always someone else's fault. What happened next remains somewhat blurry in my memory. Sophia began gathering my things, starting with a framed photo of us. She pulled off the wall and thrust into my hands. I think you should stay somewhere else tonight, she said. We need space to figure things out. We. I repeated, the implication dawning on me as Tyler refilled his glass, looking utterly at home in the apartment I had paid 2/3 of the rent for. Just go, Daniel. Sophia continued, now piling books and clothes into my arms. One night apart will give us perspective. I stood there, arms full of hastily gathered possessions, watching as my girlfriend of 2 years and my brother of 28 years effectively evicted me from my own home. The final indignity came when Tyler opened the door, gesturing dramatically for me to leave. Do not worry about her tonight, he said with a wink. I will make sure she is well taken care of. I walked out because the alternative was a physical confrontation I knew I would lose, or worse, one that would only confirm Tyler's narrative about me. In the hallway, Mrs. Finley watched wide-eyed as Sophia threw a duffel bag with more of my belongings after me, then slammed the door shut. Those two were going at it before you got home, the elderly woman whispered, confirming what I had already suspected. Been at it for hours, not just since any concert canceled. I thanked her quietly and made my way downstairs, my life reduced to an armful of hastily gathered possessions and the crushing weight of dual betrayal. I spent that night in my car, parked behind my office building, too numb to cry, too shocked to plan, simply existing in the aftermath of destruction. Morning brought dozens of texts from Sophia. Not apologies, but justifications. How Tyler had opened her eyes to what she really needed. How she had been settling for safe and comfortable when she deserved passion. How I should have seen this coming and prepared myself better. That last part, at least, was true. I should have recognized the pattern, should have protected myself from Tyler's lifelong mission to take whatever mattered to me. But I had believed Sophia was different, that our connection transcended my brother's ability to manipulate and destroy. I was wrong. And in that painful realization came the clarity I needed to ensure it would be the last time Tyler ever got the better of me. The first week after the betrayal, I functioned on autopilot. I secured a short-term rental, using my emergency savings, arranged to have the rest of my belongings moved while Sophia and Tyler were out, and threw myself into work with an intensity that concerned my colleagues. I ignored the continuing texts from Sophia, which had evolved from justification to mild regret as the reality of Tyler's character began to emerge, and blocked both their numbers after Tyler sent a smug message asking if I could spot him some cash since he was helping with your half of the rent now. By the second week, autopilot gave way to determination. I had spent a lifetime allowing Tyler to take what mattered to me, watching as our parents enabled and even encouraged his behavior. This time would be different. This time I would not simply retreat to lick my wounds. This time, there would be consequences. The first step was gathering information. Tyler's new position at our father's company's Portland branch had come with significant responsibility, overseeing projects worth millions. It was a role he had not earned through experience or qualification, but through our father's influence and his own charismatic ability to promise results he had no idea how to deliver. I still had contacts in my hometown, people who had known our family for years and had witnessed Tyler's preferential treatment. A few careful conversations revealed concerning patterns, projects running over budget, subcontractors complaining about missed payments, permits obtained through questionable connections. More valuable was an unexpected ally, Jessica, Tyler's executive assistant, who reached out to me through a mutual acquaintance. She had worked with Tyler for only 3 months, but had already compiled a file of concerning behaviors, primarily his habit of altering financial documents and misrepresenting project statuses to both clients and senior management. Your father keeps covering for him, she explained during a secured video call. But the problems are getting bigger. The Westlake project is a disaster waiting to happen, with safety inspections falsified and materials that do not meet code. She shared documentation, carefully redacted to protect herself, as the source showing a pattern of fraud that went beyond cutting corners. Tyler was actively endangering lives with his negligence, all while maintaining the outward appearance of the successful executive. The Westlake project was particularly troubling, a multi-story residential development where Tyler had approved substandard foundation materials to keep costs under budget, then falsified inspection reports to cover the deficiency. According to Jessica, he had personally pressured the inspector using methods she described as bordering on blackmail. Armed with this information, I faced a decision: go directly to my father, who would likely find a way to bury the evidence and protect his favorite son, or take a more strategic approach that would ensure accountability. I chose the latter, carefully compiling the evidence into a comprehensive report, including sworn statements from subcontractors who had been pressured to cut corners. I had Jessica connect me with Lloyd Harrison, my father's primary competitor, and a man known for his strict adherence to building codes and ethical standards. Lloyd had lost several major contracts to Reed Construction due to Tyler's unrealistically low bids that were only possible because of the corners being cut. I have been suspicious for years, Lloyd confirmed after reviewing my evidence, but proving it was impossible with your father's connections at City Hall. Together, we developed a plan not for revenge, but for accountability and public safety. Lloyd would present the evidence to the state-level regulatory board, bypassing the local inspectors who might be influenced by my father. Simultaneously, I would ensure the information reached the Westlake project's primary investor, a cautious and ethical developer who had been misled about the project's compliance with safety standards. 3 weeks after being thrown out of my apartment, I watched from my hotel room as the plan unfolded. The state board announced an emergency investigation into Reed Construction's practices. The Westlake investor publicly pulled funding, citing serious concerns about project management and safety standards. Local news outlets picked up the story, featuring interviews with former employees who corroborated the pattern of negligence and fraud. Tyler's carefully constructed facade began to crumble. The company's stock, which had gone public 2 years earlier, plummeted. Clients canceled contracts, unwilling to be associated with the growing scandal. My father issued a public statement supporting Tyler, claiming a witch hunt motivated by jealousy from competitors, but internal sources reported explosive arguments between them behind closed doors. 4 weeks after the betrayal, Tyler was officially removed from his position, not by our father, who had fought to protect him until the end, but by the board of directors, who recognized the existential threat to the company. The official statement cited personal reasons for his departure, but industry insiders knew the truth. The legal consequences followed shortly after, as the state investigation uncovered even more widespread issues than my initial evidence had suggested. Tyler faced multiple charges related to fraud, forgery of official documents, and willful endangerment through code violations. Throughout this process, I maintained complete anonymity. Jessica's role remained protected, and Lloyd became the public face of the revelations, motivated by his genuine concern for safety standards in the industry. To everyone, except those directly involved, this was simply a case of corporate malfeasance being rightfully exposed, not a reckoning between brothers. 6 weeks after that night in my apartment, as Tyler's professional and legal troubles mounted, the texts and calls from Sophia began, first tentative, then increasingly desperate. "I made a terrible mistake," she wrote. "Tyler is not who I thought he was. He lied about everything." According to her messages, Tyler had moved in immediately after I left, charming her with grand promises and intense attention that made her feel, in her words, more alive than ever before. That feeling had lasted exactly 17 days until his credit card was declined at dinner, and he revealed he had lost his job due to corporate politics. When she questioned him further, he became angry, then manipulative, blaming her for distracting him from work. When the news of the fraud allegations broke, he had initially claimed innocence, then grew increasingly paranoid, accusing her of somehow being involved in his downfall. 2 nights earlier, after drinking heavily, he had pushed her during an argument, something she assured me he had immediately apologized for, as if that somehow erased the act. "I miss what we had," her latest message read. "I know I do not deserve another chance, but I need to at least tell you how sorry I am. Please answer. Just one call." 21 missed calls, and dozens of increasingly frantic texts. Later, I maintained my silence. Not out of cruelty, but out of the hard-won understanding that some bridges once burned should remain crossed. 1 year has passed since the night that changed everything. Tyler's legal troubles culminated in a plea deal, 3 years probation, significant fines, and community service, focusing on building safety education. Our father ultimately retired early, the company now run by a professional management team brought in to restore its reputation. Our mother, finally forced to confront the destructive family dynamics she had enabled, has begun tentatively reaching out to rebuild our relationship, though that remains a work in progress. Sophia eventually stopped calling, though not before a final email detailing Tyler's pattern of manipulation and her own regrets in painful specificity. She has since moved back to her hometown in Arizona, according to mutual friends who occasionally update me despite my lack of interest. As for me, the path forward has been neither straight nor easy, but undeniably transformative. The short-term rental became a permanent move to a quieter neighborhood, a fresh start in a space untainted by betrayal. The intensity I poured into work resulted in a promotion and later an opportunity with a promising startup, where I now lead a development team building software for structural safety analysis, an ironic but satisfying connection to the promising startup events that transpired. More significant has been the internal transformation. The pattern established in childhood, where I would retreat and rebuild in isolation after Tyler's destructions, has finally been broken. Instead of withdrawing, I expanded my connections, joining a rock climbing group that challenges me, physically volunteering with a coding education program for underserved youth, and forming deeper friendships built on mutual respect rather than convenience or circumstance. 6 months ago, I met Grace at a photography exhibition similar to the one I had once helped Sophia organize. An environmental engineer with a passion for documenting urban wildlife, she approached me to compliment my rather amateur photo of a heron in the city park. Our conversation flowed easily, without the need for either of us to be more or less than we naturally are. Our relationship has developed with a transparency and mutual support that makes my previous understanding of partnership seem shallow by comparison. She knows about Tyler and Sophia, not as a dramatic story of betrayal, but as part of the experiences that shaped who I am today. She has her own history of difficult relationships and family complications, creating a shared understanding that some wounds shape us without defining us. The most important lesson from the past year has not been about revenge or justice, though Tyler certainly faced consequences he never anticipated. Rather, it has been about recognizing the difference between biological connections and genuine relationships, between the family we are born into and the one we choose to build. Tyler's actions were the culmination of a lifetime of patterns established and reinforced by our family structure. His betrayal was painful but ultimately predictable, the final expression of a dynamic that had played out in smaller ways throughout our lives. Sophia's choice to participate was more surprising but revealed fundamental incompatibilities that would have eventually surfaced in other ways. The real victory was not in Tyler's downfall or in declining Sophia's attempts to reconcile. It was in recognizing my own worth, independent of others' validation, in refusing to continue participating in destructive patterns, and in building a life guided by authentic connections rather than obligation or habit. I have not spoken directly to Tyler since that night, though I hear occasional updates through our mother. According to her, he has struggled to find stable employment with his record, but recently began working construction again, starting at the bottom in a company where our family name carries no weight. Perhaps this humbling will lead to genuine change, though I remain skeptical based on our history. What I know with certainty is that the cycle has been broken. The pattern established in childhood, where Tyler would take and I would withdraw, has finally been disrupted. Not through confrontation or revenge, but through the quiet power of refusing to play the assigned role any longer. The ultimate lesson has been that true strength has little to do with the performative masculinity Tyler and our father valued so highly. Real strength lies in the courage to examine harmful patterns, the resilience to rebuild after betrayal, and the wisdom to construct boundaries that protect without isolating. Today, as I look forward, rather than back, I am grateful for the painful catalyst that forced this growth. The brother who called me weak ultimately revealed his own profound weakness, while pushing me toward a strength I might never have discovered otherwise. Have you ever experienced betrayal from family members or partners who were supposed to support you? How did you handle it? And what lessons did you learn about yourself in the process? Share your story in the comments below, and if this account of breaking destructive family patterns resonated with you, please hit the like button and subscribe to hear more stories about overcoming relationship challenges. Share this video with someone who might be struggling with family betrayal or toxic dynamics, as sometimes knowing others have walked similar paths can provide comfort during difficult times. Thank you for listening, and remember that your worth is never determined by those who fail to recognize it.